If you would please join me in welcoming Ms. Christina Maxwell, the 2012 Distinguished Young Woman of America and a 2012 graduate of A.C. Reynolds High School.
Thank you so much, Ms. Sellers, and thank you so much for all you do for our students. It is such an honor to be here with you all tonight, and it's a little bit surreal for me. I mean, it feels like just yesterday that I was sitting where you all are. And my parents like to remind me that 5 years is just yesterday, but when you're 23 years old, 5 years is a pretty big chunk of your existence so far. So I remember very clearly what a funny and slightly unsettling place you all are in. You're teetering on this divide between the familiar and the unfamiliar, between the known and the unknown. Anthropologists actually have a name for that divide, for that threshold. They call it liminality, the quality of disorientation and ambiguity that occurs in the middle stages of a ritual. When you are no longer what you were are also not yet what you will become. In other words, you are in the in-between. And if you're like I was, in this time of liminality, you oscillate between being over the moon excited and slightly terrified. Choose over the moon excited. Save the slight terror for when you have to file your own taxes. I know what it takes for you all to get where you are. So congratulations. You have every reason in the world to be insanely proud, but you also have every reason to be very grateful. Grateful to the people who taught you, challenged you, believe in you. Grateful to your parents and your family, or to the people who have felt like your family. Grateful to the school board members, faculty, and educators who are invested in protecting and enriching the education of students in Buncombe County. So if we could give those people a round of applause. And you don't find this kind of education in a lot of public school systems. Buncombe County schools are different. And I'm not only referring to the fact that King Creek Middle School does indeed have cows and various farm animals on campus, or that back in my day, A.C. Reynolds did in fact have a ride your tractor to school day, which contrary to popular belief is not a nationally widespread trend. The experiences that I had here, like traveling with the A.C. Reynolds Chorale and Wind Ensemble to perform a tour across Beijing, China, going to Washington, D.C. to compete in National History Day, performing in Carnegie Hall, even something as normal to us as watching football games while surrounded by the breathtaking Appalachian Mountains. Those are experiences that very few people can accredit to their public school education. But one of the most exceptional qualities about Buncombe County schools is the relationship that these educators build with you all, the students. They have given you one of the greatest gifts, the tools and the knowledge and the experiences to use your God-given talents and intelligence, something you will use all of your life. So thank them, because they do not hear it often enough. And these relationships can get more precious with time. Every Christmas time since graduating from high school, I've gone with 5 of my high school classmates to a long dinner at our high school chorus and band director's home to catch up, laugh, and reminisce for hours. I recently had a Broadway audition, and I left feeling very frustrated that I hadn't shown what I was really capable of. But that night for dinner, I happened to be going to the West Village to meet my middle school drama teacher, the reason I fell in love with musical theater. I met she and her husband for dinner, and we stayed for nearly 5 hours. By the time we left, my frustration had dissolved into resilience and excitement. And after a particularly tough day of auditioning, working, and schlepping all over New York City, I came home to my apartment to find a letter from my high school health teacher. She was just writing out of the blue to encourage me and let me know how much she and my community believed in me and in what I was working towards. These relationships are rare, so remember your teachers. continue to reach out to them as mentors and friends because they are invested in you all for the long haul. And it is a long haul. Life can be hard, and it is not always fair. We're told that a lot as we grow up, and some of us are forced to learn that early on in life, but all of us learn it eventually. Bad things do happen to good people. Dreams do not always come true, and sometimes you have to go to plan B, or C, or even D. It's something that I have learned since being in the place of liminality that you all are in now. One of the many things I've learned from my experiences in the last 5 years, and I have learned a lot. I have learned to never underestimate the power of a handwritten thank you note. I have learned that it is very important to doubt your own doubts. I have learned that life is not black and white. The most interesting, scary, and rewarding parts of it happen in the gray areas. I've even learned that even in a moment of desperation, after being stuck in traffic for hours on your way to LaGuardia Airport, it is really not a great idea to eat a sandwich wrapped in tinfoil that your Uber driver gives to you, especially when he says, "It's not chicken, but it's great." And yes, I did actually do that. But the most important things that I have learned, my biggest advice to you all right now, boils down to a mantra from my beloved New York City acting teacher. Her name is Joan Rosenfels, and the 5 hours I spend with her every week studying acting is life-giving. She loves to say this: what our world needs is more people with thin skin and a strong spine. And at first I thought, okay, she's not saying this correctly. She can't mean thin skin. How many times have we been told to have thick skin, to toughen up and let it all just roll off? But I think that we have seen far too many times from history what happens when we tune out the suffering of those around us, when we dull down within ourselves the pain or the anger at injustice. And our generation is a little bit notorious for tuning things out. We sometimes sidestep a deeply felt and wide open life for a distracted, plugged-in one. It is easier to inundate ourselves with social media, constant noise and distraction, looking up only for something that might finally break our record of 299 likes on Instagram. And as you get into tough classes and a non-stop schedule in college, it will be easy to go through the next 4 years with your head down as you trudge across campus, headphones in, and mind whirring with your to-do list. It will be easy to drown out the stress and the self-doubt with drugs and alcohol that will be more than easily accessible to you and very popular. And it will be easy to be more concerned about your GPA than whether the different kid in the back of your Calculus 1 class feels alone. It will be easier, but is it right? What if, instead of shutting it all out, you let it all in? Maybe what you see will change the way you see the world and the people in it, including yourself. Maybe the world around you will influence your dreams and your path and your work. If you looked up long enough to see the way that the sunlight catches the morning sky in a way that you never quite noticed before, maybe you can finally capture that tricky shade of blue in the painting you're working on. If you slowed down and you noticed the elderly man sitting alone in the park every morning, and you stopped your text conversation long enough to have one with him, he might tell you how he was a fighter pilot in World War II. And that conversation might just change the conclusion that you're writing in your essay for your history course. If you looked up from swiping right on Tinder, you might notice the person who is literally right beside you. One of the most incredible experiences of my life happened because one sunny day before my junior year at the University of Michigan, I happened to look up. It was a beautiful summer day, and classes were about to begin, and I was going for a run, which is a rare occasion, but I was. And I was running near our children's hospital in this beautiful park. And it's called Mott Children's Hospital, located in Ann Arbor, Michigan, and it's one of the top 10 children's hospitals in the nation. And this is a trauma level 1 hospital, which means that all of the worst cases in the country are sent here. So I'm on a run, and I happen to look up as I come over this rose garden, and I see this little boy, and his head is shaved, and he's in a hospital gown, and he's clearly very sick, and a hospital worker is pushing him. And he has his eyes closed and his face turned up to the sun, and I was just so struck by how sad and how beautiful it was. And I couldn't stop thinking about that little boy. And so a week later, I woke up and was still thinking about him. And I thought, if I'm supposed to do something about this, I'm going to need a sign, God, because I'm not sure what you want me to do. And I went on a run in the same place a few days later and saw a different child. And I thought, I'm just going to send a video of me performing, my resume, what I do to this hospital, and see if I can be of help. And I did. And the hospital brought me in the next day, and I had a meeting with the music therapy team and came up with this idea to start this organization called Music at Mott, where I brought in musical theater performers every week to work with these children who are battling these life-altering illnesses, and in many cases, life-ending illnesses, and to bring light to their life, to their families' lives, to their siblings' lives. And sometimes we would perform in the family center, and sometimes we would perform on the 12th floor, which is where all of the patients were quarantined to their rooms and couldn't come out. And I would sing Let It Go from the hallways. It's a not very widely known tune, so you probably never heard of it, but I would sing Let It Go from the hallways, and the children would watch from behind the glass of their hospital rooms. And I remember one time hearing someone screaming, "Let it go," at the top of their lungs. And it was a boy, maybe about 11 or 12, who had lost his arms and his legs. And he was singing "Let It Go" from his room with the most joy and abandon I'd ever heard. And I thought, this is what the work is about. And the hospital did a video on this program. And when they shared it on Facebook, it got over 3 million hits in 2 days. And I heard from people all over the world and all over the country saying, how do I start this in Kansas? How do I start this in India? And on any different day, I may not have looked up. And none of that would have happened. But I just happened to. And so it did happen. So let your skin be thin. Wake up to the world around you. Be curious. Notice the beauty and the brokenness, and let it move you. But the tricky thing about having thin skin is that it doesn't always feel good. When you open yourself up to feeling deeply, whether in your work or in a relationship, you also make yourself vulnerable. You open yourself up to pain and to heartbreak. You see things in the world around you or in yourself that are not easy to confront. And that is where the strong spine comes in. If we were completely moved by everything around us, we'd be tossed around like a ship in a storm. So find your anchor, find your spine, find your roots, whatever they may be. For me, it's my faith and my family. Whatever it is for you, sink so deeply into that solid ground that when the storms of life come, you won't be blown away. And the storms will come, no matter how well you plan. You will have dark times. We all do. 6 months after I moved to New York City, from looking at my Instagram account, you'd think that my life was a colorful and sparkly collage of glamorous rooftop cocktails, Broadway marquees, and Christmas lights on park trees. But at the same time, late one night, after a particularly rough month, I came back from my birthday party with a bunch of friends. And when I got back to my apartment, I felt so hopeless that I sat outside of my apartment building and I cried for half an hour before I could go in. But the next day, I got up and I went to work. And now, things look very different. So when you find yourself thinking that you may not be good enough or that your work may not be good enough, remember that we all have doubts. What is important is that you do not linger there. Learn to doubt your doubts. Push through to the other side, because that is where the magic starts to happen. And you each have a magic that is all your own. No one can see the world through your eyes. No one has your quirks, your dreams, your favorite music playlist, your ideas, your sense of humor. Your life is made up of unique, hard-earned victories and crushing disappointments, giddy excitement, and aching heartbreaks that are yours alone. No one can truly share your journey and your viewpoint. So as you listen to your professors, and as you memorize theorems and philosophies, remember that no one can teach you who you are, what you believe, what you want. That is your job. Be careful to not get so caught up in the voices of others that you can no longer recognize your own. You're going to spend the next 4 years studying the beliefs of Gandhi and Martin Luther, the ideas of Isaac Newton and Freud, the works of Mozart and Arthur Miller. But when you get into the real world, you no longer have a formula to follow. You don't have someone always telling you whether you are right or wrong, someone circling things in red that you might want to reconsider, someone to tell you where to look next. You get to decide what you want. And then you find the spine, the ambition, and the cojones to go after it. You decide what you believe is right and wrong, and you use your own voice. And I think that we saw a rather disheartening use of voices on all sides during and after this presidential election. We see it in Congress. We see it on morning talk shows. We see it in interactions all around us. Having a strong spine and standing up for what you believe in is not the same thing as talking over other people or bullying other people into seeing things your way. It is about having the courage to say what you believe, and then the intelligence and the curiosity to listen. But try listening not to respond, but to understand. You all are uniquely situated and gifted to be leaders in how we treat each other, how we fight for what we believe in, and how we finally look past our differences long enough to see our common dreams. And if anyone can do it, you all can. I think the unbelievable accomplishments I saw flashing on this screen is proof of that. You all are at the top of your game. You are smart, you are creative and driven and ambitious, and clearly you are loved. And you are you. When I graduated from the musical theater program at the University of Michigan, our whole class moved to New York City together to perform a showcase for the top agents, casting directors, and managers in the business. It was our chance to show what we had, our chance to be chosen. At that moment of liminality, one of our professors shared this quote with us. Agnes de Mille, before she was known as one of the greatest choreographers of all time, came to Martha Graham, considered by many to be the mother of modern dance, for advice. After finishing the smash hit Oklahoma, Agnes de Mille felt a deep desire to be excellent, but no faith that she could be. Upon hearing this, Martha Graham said to her, "There is a vitality, a life force, a quickening that is translated through you into action. And because there is only one of you in all time, this expression is unique. And if you block it, it will never exist through any other medium, and it will be lost. The world will not have it. It is not your business to determine how good it is, nor how valuable it is, nor how it compares with other expressions. It is your business to keep it yours, clearly and directly, to keep the channel open. You do not even have to believe in yourself or your work. You have to keep open and aware directly to the urges that motivate you. Keep the channel open. So, as you head out into this next grand adventure, tune into that channel. Don't be afraid to feel and love deeply, to dare grandly, to question boldly. And when you do, I think you will be amazed by the magic that has always been within you. Thank you.